What are the GDPR principles? How can you comply with them? And what happens if you do not comply with them? These are important questions and I'm going to answer these in this video. Hi, my name is Punit Bhatia and I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Fit for Privacy. We are data protection experts and we help you with privacy strategy, its implementation and training for your staff so that you create a culture of privacy. So what are the 7 GDPR principles, or sometimes we call them data protection principles? Before we get there, the main question is, why do you need to comply with them? Well, these are the principles with which you must comply, and if you do not comply, there is a fine of the highest category, that is 4% of your global turnover or 20 million euros. That's why compliance with GDPR principles is non-negotiable. But what are these principles? And why do we call them data protection principles as well? We call them data protection principles because in the Convention 108, which has been signed by multiple countries even outside EU, these were also referred. And these are 7 in number. And when we talk about these 7 GDPR principles, these are the first one being lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. Now, this is a bundle of 3 different things. Lawfulness means you are compliant with the law and you respect the spirit of law. This also means any processing that your company carries out, you identify a purpose as per law. If you want to know about the 6 legitimate business purposes with which you can comply and which you can process your personal data in your company, watch our video on legitimate purposes for processing. But if your processing is compliant with any one of these, you are lawful in your processing. And of course, the spirit and letter of the law also needs to be complied with. So simple thing, map your processing purposes with the purposes of the law and comply with the law. That is lawfulness. What does it mean? Fairness. Fairness means you take actions which are in proportion to the processing, like you are choosing a legitimate interest as a business processing purpose. If you do that, it must not violate the rights and freedoms of individual. And the third part of lawfulness, fairness, and transparency is transparency, which means you as a company are transparent towards individuals. Transparent towards individual meaning you inform them what data you collect, what you do with it, who do you share it with, and how do you respect their rights. How do you do that? You do that by publishing a privacy statement or a privacy notice on your website. Of course, the cookie notice as well is in that category. But it is not just about privacy statement or privacy notice. It is also about all your practices and the way you demonstrate transparency. So this was the first principle, lawfulness, fairness, and transparency, which is very important. The second one is purpose limitation. In the lawfulness, we talked about mapping your processing activities to the legitimate purposes, legitimate business purposes as allowed by GDPR. By the way, when we say GDPR, there are 2 versions, the EU GDPR and the UK GDPR. Thankfully for now, the EU GDPR and the UK GDPR are same. So what is purpose limitation? Purpose limitation means you have mapped your business processing activities to one of the legitimate purposes. For example, contractual obligations or contractual agreements. If you have done that, then you process personal data only for that purpose, none other than that. A simple example would be you collect personal data for maybe an event that you are organizing. Now after that you want to send them a newsletter. Well, that's a separate purpose. Did you tell them that you're going to send them a newsletter or not? If not, you have to ask. So in short, purpose limitation means you limit the processing of personal data to the purpose for which it was originally collected, and if you need to do anything else than the purpose or legal compliance, you are going to ask for permission from the individual whose personal data is being processed. So purpose limitation is as simple as that. Now the third principle in EU GDPR or the UK GDPR or even the data protection principle is data minimization. This means you collect the data that is strictly necessary for the purpose for which you are collecting. Example, you want to offer a newsletter subscription. Normally you would need an email. Do you need name? Maybe you want to personalize, but you certainly do not need date of birth or any other information. Maybe you want to personalize it, hence you want to ask which industry they are in so that you can send a customized newsletter, but anything more would be disproportionate and is against the principle of data minimization. Simple, collect data that is strictly necessary, do not collect any other data. And then the fourth principle is data accuracy. Data accuracy means you keep personal data of individuals accurate at all times. That is, you maintain personal data as an up-to-date. How do you do that? You ask from time to time the individuals, like your banks usually ask, can you update your record? Is your mobile number still the same? Is your email still the same? That's the same thing you do. And in between, if an individual has changed their address, changed their email, or want to change their profile or information about themselves, you give them the opportunity to change that. So that's how you keep data accuracy and ensure compliance with data accuracy principle, which is the fourth principle. Now the fifth one is storage limitation, and that is very challenging. What do we mean by storage limitation? That is, data has an expiration date or retention period. What do we mean by data having an expiration date? You collect personal data, you process it. What happens after that? Take an example. You collected personal data for newsletter on your website. I subscribed out of the newsletter. Now what? Would you keep my data? And how long? That is storage limitation. You don't keep data forever, and this is a challenge. This is a nightmare for companies because systems have traditionally been prepared, been made to keep data forever, and this is not allowed. You need to keep data for a limited time. Here it's important to mention that the EU GDPR does not specify how long you should keep data. It only says keep data only until as long as necessary. Now the necessity is defined by other laws. Other laws meaning, like for accounting data, it will be accounting laws. Employment data will be determined by employment law. So as long as you have a legal obligation to keep or the purpose for which you have chosen, then you can keep the data. After that, delete it. And we all know deletion is a complex matter. Soft delete, hard delete, anonymize, there are many possibilities, and if you want to know about that, we will soon be publishing a video on data deletion as well. In short, storage limitation: do not keep personal data forever. Delete it when its purpose has been completed. Now the next principle, or the sixth principle, is integrity and confidentiality, sometimes also referred to as the security principle. What does it mean? It means the personal data that you have is made confidential, kept secure, and you protect the integrity of the data. That is, it cannot be altered by unauthorized or unintended people. Now security is a detailed topic. GDPR does not define it. GDPR just says ensure integrity and confidentiality, implement technical and organizational measures, and that's what you need to do in function of the data, in function of the risk and other principles like cost and effort and feasibility. That takes us to the last principle, that is the seventh principle, known as accountability principle. Now this means you as a company are acting in a responsible and accountable manner, and you can demonstrate compliance with GDPR and its principles on an ongoing basis. How do you do that? You do it by evidencing or documenting your decision, keeping a trail of all the actions you take. You act in a responsible manner and you comply with the law. So essentially this principle says you are compliant with law and you need to demonstrate it. So that's the accountability principle. So we've talked about 7 GDPR principles: lawfulness, fairness and transparency, purpose limitation, data minimization, accuracy, storage limitation, integrity and confidentiality or security, and last but not the least, rather the most important, accountability. And as I said, these are the data protection principles, EU GDPR principles, UK GDPR principles, whatever you like to call them, and these invite the strictest fine. That is why you must comply with them, and the strictest fine being 4% of your global turnover or 20 million euros. So you must comply with these. Now, if you need help in compliance with these EU GDPR principles, me and my team would be happy to have a conversation with you. All you need to do is email us at the contact which is mentioned in the description of this video. And if you like the video, please do click like and also subscribe to the channel, because when you do and click on the bell icon, what happens is you are notified of our videos and you get to learn about GDPR or privacy matters. And we appreciate your support. So thank you so much for continuing to support. And if you have suggestions about the videos you want us to make, do comment and we will do our best to make those. For now, I hope this video was useful and I wish you a wonderful day.